Hey, I have a little messaging talk for y'all today, and the topic is how hard it is to make stuff simple. So I just had, well, I didn't just have, but I just published an episode with my absolute favorite newsletter author, Paya Robbins. She sends out this awesome list called Violent Confirmations, and they're always less than 100 words, and I don't know the last time you've done a word count, but that's like less than half a page of text. And they're so good and they pack such a punch, and it fits right in with all these email marketing guidelines, which the last time I looked, like best practices was less than 200 words, which is still about half a page or less of text. And it makes so much sense why short works for marketing, because with all of our notifications and with all of the commitments on our time, we don't tend to have a lot of time to read the fine print. We don't. And then if you think of your own website behavior, whether it's opening an email or looking at the caption of a social media post or looking at a website, I think it's really atypical for people to just read top to bottom. I think what's much more typical is we're skimming and trying to get a sense of whether it's relevant enough to hook our attention enough to read further any of the smaller print. Our eye goes right to the big stuff, which means in messaging, it's so important to know what to put in the big stuff. It's bad design to have everything the same size font, right? There's a hierarchy of emphasis visually in terms of what goes in the heading, the big writing, what goes in the picture caption, what is a pull quote. So all this stuff that the eye is drawn to first because it's bigger, there's white space around it, etc. We have to know what to put in those spots, because that's where people are going to look first to figure out if it's relevant at all enough to them to keep spending what's left of the few seconds they have allotted to even look at this digital marketing at all. I think I read a recent study where the average time on a web page across industries is less than a minute. So I still think even if we do convince them it's relevant and maybe we can help them, if we've got a long web page, they're not reading everything. They're just looking at the big stuff. They're skimming. So what that means for you and your messaging is you need to know what to put in the big stuff, and everything can't go in the big stuff or it's no longer big. If there's no visual hierarchy of emphasis, the eye goes nowhere and we get choice overload and go on to the next thing. So what we put in the big stuff means what is the most important parts of our messaging, and that's hard. So if out of all of the benefits you could list, what's the one that goes in the heading? And how do you know? Well, you've got to know what are the results you're delivering and which of those are most important to your client and what difference does that make in your client's life, right? So it's a little more than just spewing out all your thoughts in a rough draft and then, whittling it down and picking what sounds good or just bolding the first sentence of that. More goes into that for effective messaging. There's strategy involved. And yes, I do recommend you do a brain dump and you get all your thoughts out and then you hone from there. But the strategy involved is what is the most important thing to say, because it's most important to your client and it ties most closely to the work you love to do and who you love to serve and the results you love to deliver and know that you can deliver. Oh, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. Me even just explaining what goes into the most important part of your messaging was probably longer than the messaging itself should be. There's that quote I really resonate with. I think it's usually attributed to Mark Twain, but I don't think it's actually him, but I don't know who actually said it, which is, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. It's because simplicity is such a freaking skill. It is such a freaking skill to take hard, complex things, and that includes whittling down a giant set of data or a giant pile of words and messaging into the shortest, sweetest, most important, punchiest part. That is such a skill. It's a thing you have to practice. It is not easy to do. So the process of making messaging that's easy and effective to consume for our people takes skill, strategy, and effort. It just does. There's no way around it. So I sell a brand storytelling package right now. And it's an investment, but I think it what you make from this package goes such a long way because you can reuse it in all your marketing and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of my messaging framework is like whittling all of the benefit down into one sentence. So like what goes in that heading? What is the thing we lead with? So, and it takes me so long. It takes me so long to come up with a polished sentence or a polished point or a polished messaging pillar that it does not take long to read. It should not take any effort on your part to understand what I'm trying to communicate, but it takes me, a messaging expert, a professional writer my entire adult life, a long time to get something that's simple, smooth, and easy to understand. It makes me think of, I think a lot of people, maybe if you're not feeling confident in your expertise or being perceived as an expert, like really struggle with this because you think you have to use all the big fancy words to get people to take you seriously, when actually it's the opposite. Like some other smart person said, like, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. Also love that quote because it's so true. Like I'm thinking back when I was a reporter, like for old school newspaper, and my beat was literally everything but sports. So there were so many times I had to write articles about stuff I had no fucking clue about. Like, I don't know about logging. I don't know about fish biology. I don't know about hydroelectric dams or engineering. I don't know about any of that stuff. And when I think of the articles I turned in, like the less confident I felt in my own knowledge of the subject, the longer that article was, because I was just information dumping because I didn't have enough knowledge or understanding to understand what was important and what was like could fluff or could be left out or was extraneous or unnecessary. Like I didn't know. So I just gave you all the information in a pile because my understanding was not at the point where I could pick out what was important or not. And so actually it really, I think, more powerfully demonstrates your expertise and knowledge when you can take complex subjects and you're so comfortable in your own expertise and knowledge of them that you can communicate them in a simple way. You don't have to give them all the information. You have expertise to the extent that you can pick out the important parts and give them to people, and in an appropriate hierarchy of emphasis to what's most relevant to them. So if this is sounding, sounds like me. Every one of my sales pages has been at least 10 pages on Google Docs. I have a real hard time honing my social media captions, just like I'm just spewing all the information and I don't know what I'd say if someone was like telling me in 30 seconds or less what the point of this offer is. Like I have no idea what I'd say or how I'd explain my brand or how I'd introduce myself. Then, babe, you need the brand storytelling package where I will put together a messaging framework for you that gives you the exact words, the exact language, the exact hierarchy of emphasis that's really going to help you out with your messaging and your marketing moving forward so that you don't have to put in all the effort of just like dumping every possible bit of information, and you can keep it short, sweet, simple, easy to consume for your people, and really just smooth that path, make it an easy yes, an easy decision, because it is so clear, it is so simple, it is so easy for your aligned customers to understand why they need to make this investment in you. All right, link is in the bio or in the comments, depending on where you're watching this. All right, love you, bye.